combination of Western influence or industrialized food processes, they did have high rates of osteoporosis, and this isn't just something that you can dismiss. There's archaeological evidence of Inuit having very high rates of osteoporosis before the introduction of grains and these things. They were eating high meat, high fish bone diets, and they were not living to 100 like some people seem to suggest. If you look at the book Bone Loss and Osteoporosis, An Anthropological Perspective, you actually have a work that's done by someone with very good credentials looking at, 200 plus years in the past and looking at the effects that these diets had on people's bones, like mummified Inuit. They don't go into the Maasai in that book, but the Maasai, again, they weren't living that long at all compared to the rest of Africa. Yes, they were powerful people in their youth because they were eating so much meat, and they were, fighting other tribes and winning because they had such a high calorically dense diet. But that doesn't mean it's going to be good for longevity in the slightest. 40 isn't really the age I'm looking to get to as my prime. Yet the Maasai were routinely dying around that age bracket. It was some of the lowest life expectancy in Africa. And yes, that's changed, and it's really hard to see now with the influence of modern culture. But again, if we're looking at the past information, that's what we see. This dentist that was running around the world studying all these cultures wasn't an expert in physiology. He just was a dentist. And we have to take that into consideration. He wasn't looking at the lifespan. He didn't have birth records specifically. He was taking people's words for their lifespan. On the flip side, I'm definitely not a proponent of eating no animal products. I do consume small amounts of animal products, and upon looking at the true cultures of longevity, of which there are probably around 8 that we could really say have exceptional amounts of long-lived, healthy people throughout the culture as an average, they all have small amounts of animal products, but it never really goes above the 10% bracket range. It's anywhere from 1 to 10% of their diet is animal products. So this isn't much. This is like eating a bit of meat once or twice a week, or with a little bit of dairy in between or something. It's not like 3 glasses of milk a day, pot roast, and some chicken guts because you need the vital essences of its organs to feed whatever mineral deficiencies you perceive yourself to have. No, these cultures have really rich mineral soils. They eat plenty of whole plant food sources, and the science backs this up. The observance of these traditional cultures backs it up. The intuitive or instinctive appearance backs it up if we were to consider the physiology of the human being isn't really that predatory. And then also the long-term self-experience of an individual backs that up if you know how to do it right. Of course, there are plenty of people doing plant-based diets completely wrong, and they're often the ones that give the whole plant-based diet a bad rap because they don't know how to make it work for themselves, and then they end up falling off and going to higher animal product type diet that they might have been brought up on, or they end up being a statistic for the people promoting animal products to use. The basic observation remains the same. If you look at anyone in the long term who's done their lifestyle and diet properly, if you look at both sides of the equation of the high plant-based diet versus high animal product diet, without going to any extreme like completely animal product or completely vegan, you generally see the people eating a plant-based diet, they look much better in the long run, they look healthier, they don't have like sagging flesh off their skin, they don't look overweight, they're, let's just be honest here and not just get trapped in this pseudoscience being perpetrated and widespread right now. My personal stance on animal foods is that there are superfoods within the animal food realm. I personally don't think there's any reason we need to eat meat, like the actual flesh of the animal. There's all sorts of products that can come from animals, like colostrum, like deer antler, and if you want to learn more about those, you can check out the links in the top right-hand info box. But these things are great. I eat some eggs, and perhaps my whole opinion around this will shift at some point. Maybe I will eat meat one day, I don't know. If I were, right now my thought is that if I were to eat some meat, it would be once in a while, far spaced apart, but I really don't feel any urge to at this time, and it doesn't make any sense because I know the nutritional chemistry of certain food products, and you can get everything you need from other sources. You don't need to eat meat. There's just no biochemical argument for that. And the whole traditional cultures eating tons of meat idea and argument doesn't really pan up, and the people doing the science don't really listen to this because it's just so poorly spoken and talked about by people. They just don't do the science. If they actually came up with some research about this and actually started doing the research like the people in the plant-based diet world were doing, then we might start to consider this as relevant information. But until that, it can't be a standalone idea that because this is how some areas of the world that happen to be looked at were doing it, that we have to do it. That just doesn't cut it. Different people have different reactions to various foods in different ways. I personally don't think there's any one perfect food for the human body. If we look at algae, I think they're great. They work great for me, but some people are allergic to them. We could say there's certain aspects in grains that are toxic. There's certain aspects of fruit that are toxic. We could say certain aspects of green vegetables aren't digestible. We could say certain aspects of sea vegetables are not digestible. We could say certain aspects of meat are bad for us. We could say certain aspects of other animal products are bad for us in all these different ways. So any food you look at, there's going to be someone else out there saying it's bad for you or we shouldn't be eating it. So I just wanted to put this out there as to create awareness around this. If you happen to have been eating a plant-based diet and you're considering adding animal products, don't throw that baby out with the bathwater and go all hog wild on the whole hog. Because you really need to take more responsibility for your health and really look into things more in depth and not just take one little interview you hear to heart, or even a couple if you're listening to one source of information that happens to really focus in on one aspect of what they think is healthy. Human advancement is always occurring. We can't get trapped in this idea that everyone from the past was healthier than us and right now we're at the worst aspect of our health ever. Because that's not really all that true. People would like to lead you to believe that everything traditional is better, but that's not always the case. We have flush toilets. They've vastly increased life expectancy because of that. Sanitation and all these other things have improved the quality of human life and thus improved our lifespans. Diet has changed, that's for sure. Yes, there's aspects of it that are not healthy and aren't serving us for the best, but it doesn't mean we need to go back to living completely within eating food from a 5-mile radius and eating all sorts of different animals. And there's still definitely a lot of unanswered questions, and the people that are out there challenging the scientific dictocrats, as they often are called, I think it's fantastic. They're bringing issues to light that haven't been addressed, and I'm eager to see the answers as well. And I think the people that are up there doing a lot of these big research do need to take them into account and not just dismiss them. However, the people that are challenging the big researchers need to do some research themselves on what they're recommending and not just say this is the alternative to that, when everything that has been shown through the science has actually shown that this is not healthy. These people need to show that it is healthy, not just put down the information that the actual researchers have put out. I really think that those encouraging eating a plant-based diet in the community really need to emphasize the health benefits and not these things about animal rights and all this stuff. Because really that's the front we often put up, like vegans, vegetarians, etc. Is that, you know, we got to save the animals, we got to save the planet, etc. with this diet, but really that is an adjunct to the fact that people eating this way live longer across the board and look healthier and are more vibrant if they do it properly. So when you approach it that way, it's not, first of all, it's not putting people off by saying, oh, we got to eat this way to save whatever animals and etc., save the planet. Because most people take their own health as being more important than the health of another animal. And I believe that should be the way we do. If we were built as carnivores, I wouldn't sacrifice my own health for the health of another animal. We have to put ourselves first in terms of being able to be healthy enough to survive. But if what is healthiest happens to be beneficial for other animals and the planet, then we have to go ahead and do that. Of course, if we truly were meant to eat a lot of other animals and other things, we wouldn't have such a high population on the planet. But that's just another whole topic unto itself.